FLOW is our cross-curricular environmental stewardship program that we have at the high school. We are in our 5th year of the program. The goal of this program is in order to connect students with the different disciplines that they're engaging in throughout their school day, and then connect students also to our community and our wonderful community partners. It's all about authentic learning and actual engagement with real-world problems and real-world solutions.
Every student completes a FLOW project in their English classes during the month of January. It's really a cool thing to see every student on campus doing a project. The senior project is centered on student voice and choice as students select a local or global issue they believe needs significant attention and improvement. Modeled after the famous TED Talk platform, students write a FLOW talk about this issue, raising awareness and offering clear, viable solutions.
We'd like to take a moment to thank a few people before we jump right in and get started with the talks. First, senior English teachers, Kristen Kay, Ricky Farnes, and Katie Teets. Please give them a round of applause. They triumphantly led these seniors through their FLOW units in crafting these talks and selecting our semi-finalists. We would also like to thank all parents, loved ones, family members for coming today in support of your seniors and in support of our students in general. Round of applause for them. I know it must be a very monumental year for you to have a senior student, so thank you for coming. We also would love to thank our LBUSD district staff, administration, all of you supporting the FLOW program year after year and seeing these students just really blossom and shine in all the wonderful projects they've produced. So thank you, LBUSD. I'd also like to thank all the community members that have come today, many of you serving as panelists. Your support of the FLOW program has been essential. Without you, community members and partnerships that we have, the FLOW program can't exist because it's all about authenticity and real world problem solving. So we appreciate your presence here today as well. Lastly, I just want to take a moment to thank Mr. Whitkop's multimedia production class. You may have noticed our beautiful FLOW Talk letters here. These were all crafted by students. Each step of the project was really impressive for us to see it go bit by bit, and we're really proud of the work that they did. So thank you, Mr. Whitkop.
Okay, before we dive into the talks, we'd like to take a moment to recognize the 11 other students who achieved the semifinalist level in our FLOW Talk review process. Out of over 200 talks written and delivered by the senior class, these students were nominated by their teachers for their meaningful topic selection, their superb writing, and passionate delivery. So congratulations to these students.
Now I would like to invite up our LBUSD Coordinator of Environmental Literacy, Ms. Gloria Harwood. She's going to come and explain the extra special distinction that these students have earned for being selected as a finalist for today's event.
Hi everyone. I just want to give a big shout out to Shelly and Sarah, who are just leading the way with FLOW, and being on a team with them is so inspiring, and the amount of work that they put into this program is unmatched. So if we could just give a round of applause. So the State Seal Civic Engagement is actually a state program through the California Department of Education. And last year we brought this into our FLOW program, and it really recognizes students being creative and finding solutions to local contexts and problems in our community. And on the seal, or on the diploma, they'll earn the seal, and there'll be a fix, and they'll wear a medallion at graduation, recognizing all of their efforts. This is a huge commitment to active participation, within the Laguna Beach community and the broader community in our state. So each student will be earning the State Seal of Civic Engagement. So a round of applause to our students. After the finalists give their flow talks today, we'll present them with their Civic Seal certificate and they'll receive their medallion to wear. So. Now for the exciting part, the flow talks. Our first speaker is Zealand Muncie. Come on up.
Good afternoon. Like with many things, we humans are quite wasteful. Sometimes it's obvious things, whether it's the food that we do not finish and throw away, the products that we get rid of and replace too quickly. But sometimes it's different. It looks like space that already exists, space that was built for a purpose, but space that has become invisible as we stop using it. And the Los Angeles Times did a report in 2025 reporting that Laguna Beach had about 1.3 million square feet of retail space available. From 2022 to 2025, the vacancy rates rose from 3.7% to around 8.3%. That's more storefronts sitting empty, dark windows where lights used to be on, and locked doors that have not been opened in months or years. At the same time, like most cities in California, Laguna Beach has a homelessness problem. And this creates a contradiction that becomes hard to ignore. On one side of the street, you might see a building that's been locked for quite a while. On the other side, you will see a homeless person sleeping on the street. And when you notice these two things at the same time, it raises a simple question. If space exists, why does it remain empty when it could sustain people? This is not just a Laguna Beach issue. Across California, homelessness has become more visible, more politically divisive, and more emotionally charged. According to research from the Stanford Institute of Economic Policy Research, 88% of residents in San Francisco say that homelessness has worsened, and 70% say their quality of life has declined as a result. In Los Angeles, it's the same story. About 60% of residents say the issue has gotten worse, and nearly 2/3 say it affects their own neighborhoods. And this has contributed to a lot of low life satisfaction ratings. When frustration grows like this, policy often turns to punishment. We can see that with the reform of Proposition 47, with the passing of Proposition 36, which took away a lot of the funds that were helping homelessness initiatives through Proposition 47. But punishment does not create housing, and visibility does not equal resolution. Cities across the country are beginning to explore different approaches to the problem, including rethinking how existing space is already used. For example, in New York City, a Hilton hotel in Queens stopped turning a profit. Instead of leaving the building empty, the city purchased it and converted it to hundreds of affordable housing units. Of course, the decision does not solve homelessness overnight, and it is a very large issue. However, it demonstrates something important. Unused space can be reimagined in ways that help people. Of course, a city like Laguna Beach has a lot of different conditions. Property values are extremely high, zoning regulations are very complex in our state, and purchasing buildings or converting entire retail corridors into housing would be expensive and politically difficult. But that doesn't mean a space has no role to play in solutions. Instead of forcing major redevelopment, our city could begin looking at transitional uses for unutilized commercial space, especially through partnerships with nonprofit organizations. Imagine a program where long vacant retail space could be leased to nonprofits with the help of the city and temporarily used as transitional housing and workforce training centers. Organizations like PATH and Mercy Housing already operate programs that combine shelter with mental health support and employee assistance. In spaces like this, the goal wouldn't simply be to provide a place to sleep. Instead, spaces could be mixed-use environments where people stabilize their lives while gaining access to training, job preparation, and connections to employers. Some areas of the buildings could serve as temporary studio-style living spaces, while other areas could be classrooms, workshops, or employment support centers. Residents could learn practical skills, connect with local employers, and begin rebuilding a stable routine, the kind of routine that can make it possible for them to enter the workforce, obtain a job, and be able to afford housing. Also, this would help our economy. Our economy depends heavily on tourism, hospitality, and retail, and programs like this support small businesses that can struggle to find workers who can afford to live nearby. In this sense, spaces not only help individuals rebuild their lives, but it would help strengthen the workforce in our town. This kind of approach doesn't pretend that homelessness is a simple problem. Mental health care matters, addiction recovery matters, economic inequality matters. But housing, even temporary housing, provides stability for people to get on track. And right now, in many cities, there's already space that exists but remains unused. It might be about how creative we are willing to think about spaces we already have, not new buildings that we can construct. Every empty storefront could represent a possibility. Every city has moments where it can decide where unused space will simply remain empty, or if it can become part of a broader effort to build a community that is more functional, more passionate, and more inclusive. Sometimes the difference between those two outcomes is simply the willingness to imagine space differently. Thank you.
Next up, we have Spencer Anderson.
I want you all to imagine a place nestled deep in the mountains, with perfect conditions for any sport you can imagine, whether it's skiing, snowboarding, cross-country skiing, skateboarding, or snowmobiling. This place is a haven and a playground for so many people. This place actually exists, and it's called Mammoth Lakes. But for many, this playground is a keep outside. Not a physical one, but a financial one. I know this because I grew up in Mammoth, and I saw this lack of access in my own 5th grade classroom. It baffled me that this DPE program at my school, which I loved so dearly, was available only to those who could afford the gear. When we think of resort towns, we think of the playgrounds of the wealthy and the powerful, and while this is most definitely true, for a town to function for the wealthy, there has to be people at the bottom. The problem is that in Mono County, we see a staggering wealth gap influenced by race. According to RaceCounts data from Mammoth and Mono County, while the average white resident earns around $50,000 a year, the Latinx and Indigenous citizens earn around half of that. This is not simply a wealth distribution problem, but an access problem as well. How are people expected to enjoy any of the natural resources in their own backyards if they are barely keeping their heads above water as it is? These citizens are giving up their enjoyment and their access to benefit the wealthy people living or visiting in Mammoth in exchange for minimal wages. According to US Census data, there are over 600 individuals living below the poverty line in Mammoth, with the highest poverty rate in all of Mono County. 600 people live below the poverty rate, or the poverty line, in a town where a single-day lift ticket costs over $250. When families are struggling to pay rent and keep food on the table, extracurriculars, a new pair of skis, or a skateboard deck are not simply a luxury, but impossible. Although this issue may seem impossible to fix, I'm not attempting to fix the systemic racism that plagues the better part of America, yet at least, but rather to lessen the burden for those who have to live through it, especially children. I have personally worked on this issue with my family and our foundation since I was in the 5th grade. I've learned that the best kind of solutions make not the most widespread impact, but the deepest impact in a concentrated area. For example, my family and our foundation built a 50,000 square foot skateboard park and donated it back to the town of Mammoth for public use. We didn't stop there because that would only address one aspect of the opportunity issue we are seeking to address. What if kids didn't have the proper gear due to financial reasons? We went to the skateboard shop in the town and went and kitted out the kids with skateboard decks, gear, and helmets. What if they didn't know how to skate at all? We sponsored and paid for kids to attend our skate camps each summer. Overall, we took a step back and assessed how we could address this issue from all angles. Another one of our ongoing solutions to this access problem is sponsoring snowboard teams. With the amazing coaches and training facilities available at Mammoth, there's no place more hopeful for aspiring champions. But once again, financial barriers block even the most talented athletes. So, we've sponsored the high school snowboard teams for both Bishop and Mammoth with all of the gear and resources to travel, as well as individual athletes. We've even partnered in the past with brands like 686 to kit the teams up with different snowboards and gear. For my own uncle, the foundation was founded in memory of, his only motivation to stay in school was to get good enough grades to snowboard. I can only imagine how many doors will be opened for those impacted by our programs. For many kids in Mammoth, the mountains will always be there, but our choices and our actions will impact the kids' ability to access them. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. Our third speaker is going to talk about raising lifeguard pay to improve safety and response times and staffing. Please welcome Zachary Mentor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Zachary Mentor, and I have worked the past 2 summers and over 500 hours at Crystal Cove State Park as an ocean lifeguard. And one of the most distinct memories I have of working is having a conversation with a lifeguard supervisor where he told me he has to either quit, reduce his hours, or transfer to a different agency because he couldn't afford to live based on his current pay. And that isn't an isolated case at Crystal Cove State Park. There are many guards who are similar. And while I don't work for Laguna Beach Marine Safety, I do have friends who do, and they say that similar problems exist. Additionally, at Crystal Cove State Park, tryouts and training have led to low yield rates for lifeguards and have led to understaffing and overstressed lifeguards at the beach. Understaffing at these beaches, especially during peak summer times, leads to higher response times, especially when lives are on the line, could make a difference in life or death situations. Many of these guards are choosing organizations like Los Angeles County, which are getting paid $30 to $39 an hour, San Diego, $26 to $33 an hour, or Newport Beach, $25 to $30 an hour compared to $23 to $27 for Laguna Beach, and $22 to $24 for California State Parks, with an even greater disparity for the lifeguard supervisors that are seasonal. To retain and hire the best lifeguards possible, it is imperative that the city and hopefully California State Parks raises their pay. Every year, millions of tourists go to Laguna Beach to enjoy the beaches and the ocean. And every year, there are thousands of rescues, medical emergencies addressed by those seasonal ocean lifeguards that are in the town. The Laguna's beaches are increasingly busy with lifeguards constantly having to make rescues, prevents, something that lifeguards do to prevent rescues in the first place, and provide medical aid or enforce beach rules. A great example of this is last 4th of July weekend alone, lifeguards performed over 1,000 rescues, 28,000 prevents, and 200 medical aids. Seasonal lifeguards, the guards in the towers, are often left alone, being the only first responder on the beach with the responsibility of hundreds of beachgoers. With that amount of responsibility and stress day in and day out, they deserve a pay that corresponds to that responsibility. But still, seasonal lifeguards are often forced to choose other agencies or other jobs because they're relatively low pay. The city of Laguna Beach needs to invest more in their lifeguards to keep its beaches safer, cleaner, and operational. It needs to match the significant responsibilities that these lifeguards have. Even a small increase to slowly match these other agencies would allow lifeguards who need the pay, especially the supervisors who have been chosen because of their good work, to stay at their job. Additionally, higher incentives mean more people will try out for the job in the first place. More demand for the job allows the city or the state to choose more selectively between these guards and have better lifeguards in the first place, more qualified while being fully staffed. This allows unit guards, the guards driving the trucks, or in Laguna's case, the Rivians, to be less stressed and be able to respond faster to calls that matter. The net effect would be lower response times and make the response more effective when it matters most in life and death situations. Not only will the beaches be safer, but more staffing high-quality guards will boost public perception of Laguna's beaches. This will make the beaches more welcoming, and in turn will make tourists have a better perception of the city and lead to more return visits and greater revenue. I understand that money doesn't grow on trees, and the city doesn't have an infinite budget, and one of the biggest concerns for the city is that tourist spending is low during the summer months, and I believe a possible solution for the city is to possibly raise parking costs during the summer while allowing city stickers to be more accessible to the residents. This will increase core spending to cover the cost of the wages, even if there's not an increase in hotel or retail spending. Lifeguards are the front lines on beach safety, and they are often the first point of contact of medical assistance or ocean rescue. Lifeguards are the true first responders and are an indispensable asset to our community. They should be compensated accordingly. I urge the city to take a look into this issue and consider the difference better pay would make to the City of Laguna Beach Marine Safety Department and the difference it would make to the city as a whole. Thank you.
Just want to make sure they know that's available. Please welcome Estella Newton.
Hi, everyone. Preparing to leave for college has got me thinking a lot about my time here at Laguna Beach and how we're representing our city's values thousands of miles away from home. And when I think back at my time here, one of my favorite memories is going downtown, spending long afternoons downtown with my sister. We would always start out at our local library, we'd window shop all along the promenade on Forest, and we'd usually end the day eating gelato outside Whole Foods. I was 11 years old, I was 13 years old in 2022, and there were 11 pedestrian fatalities downtown that year. Excessive traffic makes Laguna Beach less friendly for tourists, more dangerous for pedestrians, and less enjoyable for citizens. And I mean, this is a fact that anyone who's tried to get to the beach downtown during the summer has known. But it's not just a question of convenience. Greenhouse gases emitted by these cars contaminate our lungs, our city, our oceans. Pedestrians, our bodies become endangered by this, and also traveling in cars encourages a sedentary lifestyle. Now, current solutions to this usually revolve around, building more parking structures, creating more roads, essentially inviting more cars in. But I'd like to propose a different solution. Instead of increasing car access to Laguna, let's decrease it. Now, I know you're probably thinking this sounds a little bit counterintuitive, because we want people to be able to access downtown areas during the busy season. We want tourists to be able to go to our beaches. But by inviting more cars into Laguna to solve a traffic problem, we're just trapping ourselves inside of a positive feedback loop. Eventually, we're going to run out of space. And in the meantime, these solutions do nothing to combat the current issues that cars pose for our society. The solutions that I'm suggesting have three major benefits: traffic reduction, safety for pedestrians, and environmental sustainability. And let's start with the fact that these solutions have already been proven to work in major cities around the world. Paris, Amsterdam, New York City, and many more have implemented strategies such as road closures, street closures, more pedestrian areas, or road diets. But I'd like to focus on Barcelona, where the superblock model is extending civilian lifespans by over 200 days. A study published by Natalie Mueller and the Environmental Access Journal documents how these blocks in the superblock model in Barcelona, which essentially contains 400-meter square blocks, has been able to increase green spaces and walking areas, and so much so that the health benefits from reduced cars have been increasing citizen lifespan. Another example of this is road diets. So road diets are essentially a form of managing traffic where multiple roads of traffic are reduced into two, like three can go into two, or it can be turned one into a turn lane. And what this can do for cities, apart from reducing car accidents by 19 to 47%, it opens up more livable spaces, more walkways, more green areas, essentially just more spaces for the citizens to be able to enjoy the city. And all of these solutions are able to promote a greener and safer environment for those who live in the city. And my final example is one that's already been implemented right here, the Promenade on Forest. As we all know, after the COVID pandemic, businesses were shut down, and so in an attempt to create a more open environment for businesses and restaurants, the Promenade was created on Forest, where the street was closed, And to this day, it's become a very successful center for pedestrians to be able to just walk and enjoy the city, and tourists. We often have live music there. So this is just one example of a street closer here in Laguna that has already been proven to be extremely effective in creating a green space for citizens. Oh. So thinking back, again, to Laguna Beach, the values that I hope that I take with me when I leave for college, and I hope that my classmates do too: respect, service, community. These values demand action right now to solve this issue. We need to be open to innovative solutions in order to solve this problem. Thank you.
Next, we will be hearing a talk from a student who teaches us how to recognize fascist tactics and urges critical media education in order to defend democracy. Please welcome Sam Avila.
Terrible things are happening outside. At any time of the night and day, poor, helpless people are being dragged out of their homes. They're allowed to take only a rucksack and a little cash with them. And even then, they're robbed of these possessions on the way. Families are torn apart. Men, women, and children are separated. Children come home from school to find their parents have disappeared. Women return from shopping to find their houses sealed. Their families gone. Everyone is scared. You've probably heard this passage before. It might even seem familiar. This is an excerpt from the Diary of Anne Frank, written in 1943. Now, when reading the Diary of Anne Frank in 8th grade, I found myself wondering, what were the German citizens doing through all of this? How could they stand by and let a fascist regime abduct and slaughter their neighbors without doing anything? The answer seems clear. It seems obvious to any person with a heart that you would stand up to a system like this. But do we even know how to recognize a fascist government? The Nazis didn't make a radio announcement saying that Hitler would launch a dictatorship. How are the people supposed to identify and stand up to a system that has fallen to fascism? We seem to forget that fascism can start from democracy. Hitler was elected into power, and the German citizens who voted for him didn't know that was their last election. No one knows which election is their last election. So, let's examine the recorded historical steps that indicate a fascist leader is coming to power. First, a leader establishes a mythical, idealized past. Differing from traditional nationalism, this idea of the past was great, largely because of the dominant racial group in power and the strength of the military. Propaganda is another key component as well, but it's important to distinguish fascist propaganda from standard political propaganda. Fascist propaganda follows certain hallmarks, mainly that it creates a perceived friend and enemy. This enemy threatens to fundamentally oppose the nation and threaten the safety of one's family and loved ones. A leader will also prime their audience to disregard the distinction between truth and lies. This focus on anti-intellectualism allows the leader to create their own sense of reality and silence experts and dissenters. As Jason Stanley put it, the center of democracy is truth. You are not free if you are being lied to. Truth and equality are vital to a democratic society, as people must have free access to the truth and equality within their vote. In order for democracy to function, a fascist leader will also establish a perceived hierarchy. When people believe in hierarchy, they accept that they've earned a higher position within it. Leaders are then able to instill a fear that the others are attempting to rob them of this God-given high ground. This fear creates a sense of victimhood when the notion of equality is brought up. Germans are victims of Jewish people, or men are victims of feminism. Athletes are victims of transgender people. It is especially common to proclaim that women and children are at risk, and the only solution is a strong man in power. This inflated idea of the perceived enemy causes followers of the leader to accept extreme ideologies such as fascism that they might not have tolerated in the past. This false sense of urgency causes people to accept temporary measures that are extreme, yet combat the perceived threat. But these measures aren't temporary. Alone, these tactics are political tools. When in combination, they aim to take the mass manipulation of a country into fascism. We are so focused on creating walls, on separating good and evil, us versus them, on cutting off those who disagree with us. But if you cannot name one good thing about your opposition, you too have been brainwashed. Some people feel hopeless at the state of our country, and others see no issue at all. Some feel uneasy, yet unsure if there's any real threat to democracy. I proposed a series of classes, beginning in primary school, intended to teach people how to identify propaganda, lies, and the hallmarks of fascist regimes. We need a bridge between people and information dissemination and facts. Fascist leaders rely on uneducated and divided masses, on silencing dissenters. Standardized education, not only in a historical context, but with the demand to examine the media one encounters with critical thought and scrutiny, would begin to form this bridge. Education and knowledge are our best defense against a system of lies and fear. Today, we teach students about the Holocaust in depth, but if we are not able to identify a return to fascism, or the hallmarks of propaganda, or what it looks like to see a fascist leader rise to power, then we are bound to repeat history. My proposed classes would bridge the mistakes of the past with the problems of today. We cannot stand by and abandon the friends and neighbors who have been targeted, abducted, and murdered today. In the words of Timothy Snyder, if none of us is prepared to die for freedom, we shall all die of tyranny. Thank you.
Next up, we will hear from a student who focuses on preventing youth trafficking through education, safe spaces, and community action. Let's have Madeline Rubin.
Okay, I want you all to imagine a street in one of America's richest cities where girls as young as 11 or 12 walk the sidewalk night after night. Not by choice, but because the system that's meant to protect them already failed. This isn't a distant crisis happening in another country. This is happening in Los Angeles, right near schools, churches, and homes, on a stretch of road law enforcement and survivors have come to call the Blade. Around the world, currently 50 million people are victims of human trafficking and exploitation, which is 6 times the population of New York City. 2 out of 5 sex trafficking victims in Orange County are minors, and 90% of these victims are female. At-risk youth, especially those without housing, are the most vulnerable to exploitation and are where our efforts need to be focused. When young people lack access to basic needs, such as safety, hygiene, and support, traffickers take advantage of their vulnerabilities. As a founder of Forever Free Club at my high school, I work to educate my peers about youth leadership skills to raise critical awareness about human trafficking. This club's goal is to equip youth with important information on human trafficking to reduce and end victimization. The 2022-2023 Orange County Grand Jury Report documents how agencies formed Orange County Human Trafficking Task Force to combat trafficking. These efforts show that human trafficking is a serious issue in our county and requires coordinated action and support. Specifically, the presence of a task force reinforces the idea that trafficking is not a rare issue. It is systemic exploitation. Experts at Orange One Foundation report that foster and unhoused youth are at a high risk of trafficking and exploitation. This research identifies common warning signs as unmet basic needs, sudden changes of behavior, and unexplained access to money and gifts. Additionally, perpetrators are commonly identified as peers, romantic partners, and adults offering help. This evidence shows that youth without stable support systems are targeted, especially when they lack safe places to go. While task forces and awareness campaigns exist, less than 1% of victims receive the help they need. In conclusion, evidence shows that human trafficking thrives where youth lack safety and resources. Research and data support the idea that safe spaces, mentorship, and education reduce the risk of vulnerability. Moreover, community involvement and youth action are necessary parts of the solution. It is imperative that students take realistic action by completing community service hours, creating social media campaigns, and engaging in peer-to-peer outreach. My vision for change is a community in which informed students protect one another, a future where vulnerable youth have access to safe housing, support, and education. Awareness leads to prevention, and prevention leads to a future of freedom and safety for all. Thank you.
These are just amazing. Next up, we will hear from a student who exposes firefighter pay disparities and urges equitable funding to retain emergency personnel. Please, let's give a warm welcome to Caden Roselle.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caden Roselle.
That was my bad.
Hello, everyone. My name is Caden Roselle. I'm a senior here at Laguna Beach High School, and I'm also in EMT school right now. And I remember I was on one of my ride-alongs, which is the one where we had you have to go on two 12-hour ride-alongs. And on one of them, we were going to get food for our entire station, consisting of 4 firefighters, 2 EMTs, and myself. We were in the grocery store at Ralph's, just down the street. And one of the EMTs, as we're checking out, he turns to me and says, "How do you think we can pay for all this?" And I said, "I'm not too sure. Is this not really a problem?" And he turns to me and he goes, "I usually just don't more debt." And he kind of laughs it off, but something about that told me he wasn't really laughing it off as much as coping. So this interaction of them not being able to feed themselves, because to me that was kind of insane. These are the people that we call 911, and they come to make us feel safe. But they're not being fed, and they don't have the proper funding to feel rested and fed and hydrated, and all the important things that we want and need from our first responders. So this led me to look at pay disparity amongst both organizations and just in EMS in Laguna Beach. EMS responds to more dangerous, more information requiring calls than most professions, and yet we get paid less than most professions, and we even get paid less than most other first responders. So, but we play a very critical role in public safety. This doesn't just affect firefighters and EMTs and ride-alongs. This just affects the public communities at which we serve. So my first service was a 2023 total compensation survey from California Department of Human Resources. State firefighters on average earn 16.7% less than local firefighters. State firefighters also work 156 days, whereas local firefighters work 121 days. Now, many of you are probably saying, well, those are state firefighters. How are they relevant to our local Laguna Beach? But I want you all to think back to the Palisade fires last year. The LAFD was significantly overwhelmed, and they had to call upon state resources such as CAL FIRE. But if we call upon those resources, from what I'd say there was a fire back here in one of our many hills and open areas that we have, if those firefighters are significantly funded, how are we going to combat that fire if we don't have a motivated or funded firefighter? Additionally, they also face significant burnout, and that leads to staffing shortages and overall, it's an unsustainable system. And the effects are seen. I saw a Fox 11 LA report from January of 2025, which highlights from an LAFD firefighter, Daniel Gonzalez, that they face severe understaffing and underpayment. And he also says that they get forced hired, which means that they have to work at their station more than their shift requires. This also leads to significant burnout, and it leads to many not being able to stay in the profession. Now this leads to delayed response time, and ultimately delayed response time is worse because you don't want to respond firefighters late. And additionally, it also leads to a lower quality of care. It also leads to fewer crews and more exhausted responders. And an exhausted responder can't give you the care that you want. I also saw the stories about wildland firefighters. An Al Jazeera report states that wildland firefighters make as little as $15 an hour. And this applies here too. We have OCFA Station 11 over in Emerald Bay, where our reserve firefighters are making $16 per 8-hour calls. Now, I know this because my older brother was a reserve firefighter there, and I plan to be one. But this practice of only making $16 per 8-hour calls is just simply not sustainable, and we cannot live on that. Additionally, we need these firefighters for when that situation does happen. We need our state firefighters, we need our local firefighters, we need OCFA. We need as many people as we can, and we need them to be motivated. But with all this inequity and just these disparities, we can't have that. GovernmentJobs.com reports, and sorry, now I'm going to move into EMTs because that's what I'm doing right now. GovernmentJobs.com reports that on average, lifeguards in the Good Beach make $26 an hour. EMTs make $22 an hour. Now, I'm showing you this comparison not to say firefighters should be paid more or EMTs should be paid more, lifeguards should be paid less. I want to say the opposite. I think, as Zach said, we should pay lifeguard more. If they're struggling on $26 an hour, how can EMTs be doing good on $22 an hour? On average, across the country, they make 20 to 22. So this shows that this is not just a problem in Laguna, but it's also a problem everywhere. And many sources cite that it's because of the lack of training that EMTs go through. However, I also want to point out that being an EMT, the reason why your training is part-time is because your job is part-time, because it's not a sustainable job at all. Now, both are obviously a problem. And it's very unequitable. Yes, sorry. So what can we do about this? Our main solution right now is we can advocate for more equitable pay in City Hall and hopefully Congress through our local representatives in Congress. And this will help retain personnel, increase motivation, and our standard of care, which is the most important thing in my opinion. And but on a personal level, until we can reach that level of getting a pay raise in Congress, what you can do is you can just donate money, food, water, anything you have, because they'll take anything. They'll say, we're just saying thank you. That'll work too. And this $10 or a case of water, you thank you, it's not just charity. It's also motivation. And a motivated first responder can save more lives. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from a student who unmasks corporate greenwashing and promotes truly sustainable alternatives. Let's hear it for Zoe Trey.
Hi, everyone. So a few days ago, I walked into a cafe and ordered my usual, an iced matcha latte. I walked out, plastic cup in hand, sipping from a paper straw. A few steps later, and I was left with a half-dissolved mess. You've probably experienced this problem as well. You order a drink, it comes in a plastic cup, and it comes with a paper straw, forcing you, within minutes, to fish out a wet, pulpy mess. But we often tell ourselves, that's okay, because paper straws are better for the environment, right? Well, as it turns out, a lot of the time, they're actually not. The widespread adoption of paper straws is actually part of a larger practice known as corporate greenwashing. Greenwashing is when corporations deceptively portray themselves as environmentally sustainable and responsible when they are in fact not. As consumers become increasingly concerned about the environment and sustainability, our businesses are responding in kind. But some are a lot more genuine than others. Take paper straws, for example. Researchers at the University of Antwerp have found that paper straws contain more PFAS or forever chemicals than plastic straws. They contain more. And these forever chemicals, as the name suggests, can stay in our environment for decades, poisoning our water supplies and causing a host of health issues, including kidney cancer, cardiovascular issues, and reproductive problems. Another common example of corporate greenwashing you may have never even noticed is when companies market their products with vague terms like
eco-friendly or sustainable. Sometimes that means they'll throw on some vaguely related nature or health imagery, like trees, leaves, plants, nurturing hands. Sometimes that means they'll give you their product in a container that's marked as recyclable. The reality is, a lot of these products that they claim are recyclable are actually just plastic covered in paper lining. And unfortunately, because that recyclable paper part is fused to the plastic inside, the actual product is not recyclable at all. It's unreasonable to expect consumers to somehow peel apart the recyclable versus unrecyclable parts. These deceptive marketing tactics aim to cultivate an image of true eco-consciousness and responsibility, while lacking any true sustainable actions to back their claims up. Greenwashing is a major issue for a number of reasons. Firstly, plastic pollution is not going away anytime soon, even if we all suddenly switch to using paper straws. And that should matter to you, because our city is the only city in all of California whose entire coastline has been designated as a marine protected area. We quite literally live next to one of the most beautiful and biodiverse coastlines in the entire world. And yet, our wondrous ecosystems are being put in jeopardy by plastic pollution and chemical contamination from pollutants like PFAS that come from the products we use, like paper straws. Secondly, when corporations pretend to be committed to environmental sustainability and they appear to be taking action, even when we know in reality they aren't, that lulls us into a false sense of security. And it hinders us from taking genuine action and implementing true solutions to the climate crisis. So, what can we do? What are some genuine and actionable solutions that we can implement? Well, for one, change does start at the individual level. All it takes is a little bit of research, making conscious action to implement change in your real life to make a true difference. For instance, researchers in India and Korea have found that algae biopolymers are an innovative and sustainable alternative to using synthetic plastics and other polymers. Algae farms are also beneficial for the environment, as microalgae are highly effective carbon sinks capable of sequestering 10 to 15 times more carbon than land plants. By taking the time to do our research and implement real change in our lives and spread the word, we're able to support the development of industries for solutions like algae biopolymers, and we're able to facilitate their widespread adoption. Ultimately, it's up to us to bring about genuine transformative change. Thank you.
Next, we will hear from a presenter who describes SparkWise, a youth-led wildfire and fireworks safety initiative with community partnerships and turn-in events. Here is Kian Arshad.
Let me ask you something. What if the biggest fire in your community didn't start with lightning or a campfire or some massive car accident? What if it started with one kid and a firework? Because in my community, that was happening. Let me take you back to the 4th of July. Like many other families, my family celebrated with fireworks. My brother even lit a firework in my grandma's backyard. But he didn't use a launch tube. So the firework just exploded on the floor in the backyard. And at that moment, everyone froze. We didn't know if someone was hurt. We didn't know where the firework even went. We didn't even know if something had caught on fire. And I just remember thinking, man, we're definitely getting in trouble for this one. And sure enough, about 15 minutes later, the fire department showed up at the house. And they explained to us how dangerous that moment really was. But nothing happened. It was a close call. Later, the Rancho fire happened. And but we still had fireworks in our house. And it didn't feel like a big deal to me. And about 3 days later, on July 7th, 2025, is when the Rancho fire broke out. And it was started by none other than a kid with a firework. Who would have known? And as we watched the smoke roll over the hills and the fire trucks rush into the canyon, it hit me. That fire could have started anywhere. It could have been started in my backyard. Suddenly, that close call felt closer than ever. I had a revelation. If we still had these unused fireworks in our house, so did a ton of other families. And after I did some more research, I was surprised to find out that according to CAL FIRE, fireworks cause hundreds of fires in California every single year. Hundreds. And that's where the idea for SparkWise was born. SparkWise is a youth-led wildfire prevention initiative focused on education and responsibility. Instead of waiting for these disasters to happen, we focus on preventing them. We partnered with the Laguna Beach Fire Department and Captain Chip Gilmore, and we worked with city leaders in order to create firework terminal days where residents can safely surrender their fireworks with zero penalties. That's when it became clear to me that one less spark in our community means one less wildfire that could happen at any time. But SparkWise is not just about fireworks. It's bigger than that. It is about realizing that young people do not have to wait to make change in this world. Leadership is not about titles. It starts when someone sees a problem and decides that they want to do something about that problem. Wildfires often start in the same ways, not with some massive accident, but with one little spark. The good news is that change can start in that same exact way. SparkWise started with a close call in my family, and a fire in our community just days later. But here's the thing. I realized that this isn't just a Laguna Beach problem. Today, communities in California and even across the country face the same exact risks. And that's when it became clear that small choices really do matter. Like choosing not to light a firework, choosing to turn one in, and choosing to speak up, because one of these sparks can cause havoc in our community. But one idea, one decision, or even one student can stop it. Thank you.
All right, we're on our 10th speaker out of 12, so this is exciting. We have just a few more left. Next, we have a student who champions the power of positive affirmations. Please welcome Mallory Kelly.
I'd like to start by asking you, when was the last time you woke up, looked in the mirror, and said, "Today is going to be an amazing day"? When was the last time you wrote down something you were grateful for, or even took the time to journal about your day? When was the last time you purposely took a deep breath to calm yourself? Now, for most of you, I'm willing to bet the answer to these questions is never, I don't know, or I have no idea. Why is that? Maybe it's because you never feel you have the time to. I know I feel like that all of the time. Maybe it's because you might feel silly doing it. Or maybe it's because you don't know the impact that 30 seconds can have on your life. In a world with such constant chaos and turmoil, mindfulness, gratitude, and affirmations can literally change your life. Now, this summer, I had the opportunity to attend a humanitarian experience trip in Cambodia with a group of kids, and we were able to help build 2 rooms onto a schoolhouse there. And I remember on our first bus ride there, we were all just so nervous and we felt so incapable of this really rather large task we had in front of us. And luckily we had the aid of some local contractors, but it was still a scary experience. And my trip leader introduced us to a song called the Affirmation Song, written by Snoop Dogg and Doggyland. Now, this is a very silly song, but I want you to take a second and read some of the lyrics that I have put on the screen. It's sung after in a repeat after me style, and so you're meant to sing it very loud, very proud, and so if you ever see me singing along in my car, it's probably going to be to this song, because it's my hype song, and I love it a lot. But some of these words are so powerful, like, there is no one better to be than myself. Today is going to be an amazing day. My feelings matter, and I get better every single day. Now, as I said earlier, this seemed like a really, really silly song, and I was just embarrassed to say it out loud on the bus ride. But after I started to say them, I realized the power that my words being verbalized had. Now, my nerves were instantly gone and my mood was uplifted. And actually, many teachers have begun to use this song in their kindergarten and elementary school classrooms because it works. This song is able to help teachers and children and all adults realize how to learn how self-confidence and regulate their own emotions. While this was originally written for kids, I believe Snoop Dogg wrote it for his grandchildren, the benefits of doing these daily affirmations are the same for all ages. We all have moments where our stress levels are through the roof. But techniques such as repeating affirmations or box breathing are very significant but small ways you are able to quickly regulate yourself. Now, you might be asking yourself, what's in it for me? Why would I do this? Well, let me tell you, because there are so many benefits to doing this daily in both your brain and in the body for yourself. Now, in the brain, practicing gratitude will trigger the release of dopamine and serotonin, which are the neurotransmitters responsible for happiness, motivation, and mood regulation. Over time, it's also going to lower your levels of cortisol in your body, which is the stress hormone, which is why it tends to lead you to not have as much stress. It is also going to decrease your anxiety and calm your nervous system down because you're regulating yourself. Now, continued overtime practice can even help you regulate the amygdala in your brain, which is your fight or flight response center. It's going to significantly change the way you react to stress and make things seem less overwhelming for you. Now, in the body, because you're calming yourself down, you're able to actually regulate and lower your blood pressure. You're able to get better quality sleep because you're less worried about stuff at night. And you're also able to increase your own emotional resilience to problems when they come up. And lastly, this is going to enhance your self-esteem and greatly improve your mental strength. Now, I've read you all the benefits, and now I have a challenge for you. I would like you, this week and next week, to pull out your phone. I know a lot of us take the time to scroll many days, so I'd like to challenge you to spend 30 seconds on your notes app writing down one good thing that happened that day. Now, I started to do this challenge myself because I obviously can't tell you to do something and not do it myself. So this is my example of my notes app this week and what I think has gone well. And it's been a wonderful process for me. So I'd like you to start doing this and to repeat it once a day, every single day of the week. And I know this might seem like a lot, but I promise you it's not. These small tasks will quickly develop into a routine for you. And I know this might feel really silly because it took me a while to get over saying, my feelings matter, right, out loud. But I say, try anyway. Sing the affirmation song when you're having a bad day. Before you go to bed, take the 30 seconds to reflect on your day and write down something you're grateful for. Now, I am in no way perfect at this. I still have really rough days where I forget to do it. Before I started this daily practice, I was really heavily reliant on external validation from others and perfection. It was even affecting my sleep quality at night because I was just so focused on the negative in the world and I was really concerned about everything. But I decided to take the time to start to write down 3 things that I was grateful for right before I went to bed. So the last thing I thought of was something well that happened that day instead of went wrong. And as I developed this routine for myself and made the gratitude journal the last thing I did before bed, I noticed a change in my outlook on life. I was just less stressed out, and I started to look for the good in others, and I even saw an increase in my self-confidence. And on the slide, I have an example of, that's my first ever journal entry at the top for my gratitude journal, and that's one of my most recent ones at the bottom. And so, with this, I'd like to leave you with a challenge in the statistics, because there are 86,400 seconds in each day.
Now, if you were to take just 30 seconds of your day, this would result in, over time, 10,950 seconds of conscious, mindful reflection each year. This number is a very large number, and I promise you it will make a difference in your life. Now, I am so passionate about the benefits of these things because I've seen it working in my own life, and I know that it can in yours too. So, I leave you with this. Take a deep breath. Let the stress roll off your shoulders. Just trying is showing up for yourself. When you show up for yourself, you're better able to show up for your community around you and the friends that you meet. Your life is going to become so much more meaningful and joyful. You've got this. And remember, there is no one better to be than yourself.
All right, we will now be hearing from a student who advocates for sustainable fish selection for local restaurant usage. Please give a warm welcome to Anna Sandquist.
Laguna Beach is the first California city to become plastic-free and the first ever to have banned balloons. We have been at the forefront of conservation efforts and sustainability initiatives, and we have gone to great lengths to protect our own marine ecosystems. So we cannot, in good conscience, support a practice that destroys marine ecosystems worldwide. In the past 40 years, overfishing has caused marine species populations to decrease by 39%. Unsustainable fishing practices like bottom trawling can destroy entire ecosystems at once. Discarded fishing gear makes up more than 46% of the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, and depleting fish stocks put billions of people every single year at risk of food insecurity. We have over 100 restaurants in Laguna Beach's jurisdiction that serve seafood, and many of these restaurants provide no information on how their seafood is sourced. When menus look like this, consumers have no idea about which options are sustainable and which are not. Having the city require transparency about seafood sustainability in restaurants would incentivize restaurants to provide sustainable seafood options and incentivize consumers to choose those sustainable options at the same time. It would set Laguna Beach apart by demonstrating our commitment to the protection of the marine environment and encouraging other cities to follow our example while raising awareness about unsustainable seafood. There is a multitude of ways to complete this goal with the support of the Laguna Beach City Chamber of Commerce. The most passive way to do this would be to require all restaurants that serve seafood to provide copies of the Monterey Bay Seafood Guide to customers, with the option to take the brochure at the front of the restaurant or to provide it upon request. Then consumers have the choice to reference the guide when making their menu decision. If the city of Laguna Beach truly wants to embody sustainability and take this goal a step further, scientific research proves that requiring sustainable indicators on restaurant menus would directly increase consumer demand. Alternatively, Laguna Beach restaurants can participate in sustainability programs individually. Surfrider Foundation's Ocean Friendly Restaurants list is a prime example of Laguna Beach restaurants that have individually taken action to be a part of sustainable change. However, serving sustainable seafood is only an optional criteria to be a part of that list, and I firmly believe that transparency about seafood sustainability should always be a mandatory requirement. I am currently collecting information from local restaurants to see if they would be interested in participating in the Monterey Bay Seafood Watch program, which would feature specific Seafood Watch indicators on their restaurant menus, showing best choice options in green and yellow and red indicators for options that are not as sustainable. I am also reaching out to restaurants to see if they'd be interested in participating in oyster shell recycling programs, which would contribute to regenerating our ecosystems and closing that loop. These methods, which are up to restaurant discretion, are easily applicable and do not need to go through the legislative process of the City of Laguna Beach, but they need community support and citizen action. However, I firmly believe our city has the responsibility as a hub for fine dining and role model for conservation to implement these rigorous and widespread measures to support sustainable seafood production, raise awareness about overfishing, and influence consumer choice. By supporting this bold legislative move, we have the opportunity to set ourselves apart from other cities and prove our unwavering support for sustainability and protection of our marine ecosystems. Thank you for your time.
Last but not least, we have a student who warns against AI-generated arts threats to artists and advocates for local legislative protections. We have Eliana Merritt. Laguna Beach is a community of artists. It always has been. I would like to say that it always will be, but I just don't know if that's true. Because right now, artists' livelihoods are at risk with the advent of art generated by AI. Large companies, such as Coca-Cola, are already starting to use AI to generate television advertisements, which is taking jobs away from commercial artists. And museums such as the Whitney Museum of American Art and the Museum of Modern Art are already starting to display AI-generated art in their galleries, which is taking opportunities away from fine artists. Additionally, besides just taking away jobs and opportunities, AI is harming artists because AI models are trained on artists' works without their consent and without compensation. This leads to something known as style mimicry, where an artist's style that they have spent years developing, and it honestly comes from their soul, can be easily copied by AI, which devalues their work like that. AI companies claim that they are allowed to train their models on artists' work without their consent based on the fair use doctrine of US copyright law. Whether that's legal is debatable, and let's just say it's playing out in the courts right now. And I'm sure you're all wondering right now, besides what's happening with the lawsuits, what solutions do we have? Well, currently there are 2 tools put out by the University of Chicago that artists can use to protect their artwork when posting online. The first one being Glaze, which glazes the artwork in a sense, kind of editing the way that an AI model would perceive the artwork, and this prevents style mimicry. On the other hand, we have Nightshade, which is an offensive tool that completely changes the way that the AI model sees the artwork. And so the AI model will get confused. And if enough models of AI are trained on works that utilize Nightshade, the AI models will be disrupted and will not work anymore. But AI is only going to get more advanced and harder to confuse. So tools like Glaze and Nightshade are not the solution. What we really need is legislation. We need legislation that requires AI companies to label their images as being generated by AI, not only for artists, but also for protecting us against fake news. And we need legislation that prevents artists from being exploited by AI companies. I'm sure you're all thinking, Eliana, we do not have the power to create national legislation. And you're right, we don't. But we know people who do. I'm asking you, yes, you, right there, you, to contact Dave Mint, our representative, as well as Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff, our senators. We might not be able to go on the floor of Congress and create laws, but they can. Additionally, as a more local solution, I'm asking the City Council to ban AI art in Laguna and the major arts organizations of our community to sign a pledge that they will never display or sell AI-generated art. Again, I know you're thinking, what is this going to do? Well, firstly, it will reinforce Laguna's status as a haven for artists. Like I said in the beginning, Laguna Beach has always been a community for artists. And I believe with this, we can continue to make it. I know that AI art is never going to go away, but the key to keeping human art alive is by creating spaces where human artists have the ability to display and sell their work without the threat of being pushed out by AI art. I believe that Laguna can be one of those spaces, and we can keep alive this artistic tradition that has been around since humans have been on this earth. The artistic tradition of art created by humans. Additionally, I think this will make a statement. Imagine we get a major news source to cover artsy seaside town in sunny Southern California, fans AI art. People are gonna be shocked by that. Like, people are gonna be like, why would you do that? There's no way to enforce that. And it's true, there is no way to enforce that, but it is gonna get people thinking. It will get people thinking about the legislation that we so desperately need. I know fighting against AI seems impossible, but AI taking over is only inevitable if we accept it to be so. And I plead you to take action on this, not just for the artists who live and work in your community today, but for the artists of tomorrow, artists like me. Thank you. So we've heard our last talk. Now I would like to invite up all of our community experts, panelists, who have been scoring these students talk by talk. Thank you for your hard work. I know that was a lot, fast and furious. And I'd also like to invite back up Gloria Hartwood. We're gonna just hear a few remarks from the panelists. They'd like to give some feedback and commentary. I'd also like to invite a few of my seniors to help me pull out the chairs in the back here. If you don't mind coming to the stage, we have chairs on each side. We're just gonna line them up back here. Thank you so much. One more round of applause for those 12 seniors. They did a wonderful job.
Thank you, students. I just want to note that this was my group of 7th graders quite a bit ago, and I had them virtually in a classroom. Do you guys remember that? Look at all the things you've done since 7th grade COVID classroom, and I'm just so proud of you. I think I didn't have a dry eye that entire time. I was incredibly emotional, so I'm just so proud of you. As you can see from the slide on the screen, we're so fortunate to have an abundance of amazing partnerships within the community, within our community organizations. We would love it for each panelist would come up and introduce themselves and then give a brief note of feedback to our presenters. Thank you so much. Test it. Great. We'll start down here. Just a brief note as we tally our scorecards. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carissa Rex from the Laguna Ocean Foundation. I'm always thoroughly impressed every time I get to interact with any of the students here at Laguna Beach High School, but especially a lot of these flow talks and other flow presentations. It's a wonderful program. I hope my words are kind of a little bit more to the organizers. I hope that students who get to see some of our feedback that we wrote on the cards, some of you definitely need to take the show on the road. You need to reach out to other people. So I wrote some recommendations in terms of groups to reach out to so that your message can continue on, because these are some really important messages that should go on to audiences larger than what you just experienced in your classrooms and what you experienced today.
Thank you. Good comment. Otherwise, my name is David Horn. I am the founder of the Greater Laguna Coast Fire Safe Council, which was put together after the '93 fire, sometime after that. I worked in town to try and raise fire awareness. I was very impressed by the fireworks guy. The police weren't here to take you away. Confession is pretty straightforward. I was impressed by everyone's capability of articulating what they wanted to say. Some a little more uneven than others, but it was an excellent job. I mean, I've been a college professor for a long time, and you held your own. So you're all ready for college, is what I would say, because you're ready to stand there and have your ideas clearly enunciated to your audience and with passion. And that was very impressive. So nice work.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Evelina Marchetti. I was the executive producer of TEDx Laguna Beach in 2024, and I'm blown away by all of the courageous speakers, from your content to your passion, your conviction, as well as your delivery, your transitions. You know, it was just so professional done and so well done. And I'm going to write my notes that I took out to each one of them and send them to the ladies. And so you'll get my direct feedback. But overall, I just want to say that through a growth lens, to look at yourselves, what you've accomplished today, and to really think about through college how you can actually accomplish. I believe every single one of you could accomplish your goals based on your talk today, and I support all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rich German. I'm the founder of a local ocean nonprofit called Project No. And Evelina works with me, and I was also the organizer and MC of TEDx Laguna Beach. And Evelina and I had the honor of coaching you guys a couple months ago when this whole process started. And so to see where everybody was that day, and just the thought of picking a topic and crafting a speech and practicing that speech, and then having the courage to get on the stage and deliver it, like they say, delivering a talk in public like that is the most stressful thing a human can do. So I think we should hear it again for all these speakers. The preparation that went into that 5-minute talk is profound, and I was kind of like Gloria, almost in tears the whole time just watching you guys deliver that. It was just, I'm blown away. So congratulations, you guys are amazing.
Hi, my name is Wyatt Schiff. I'm the student film program coordinator for the Coast Film and Music Festival. I also helped judge the junior competition for Flow. They have a film festival for this same program. It was my first time joining this event, and I must say I'm blown away. I'm really impressed by all the research you put in, and just the courage, just beyond even any of the prompts and the topics that you all had to come up here today and deliver your message. That's not easy. And I think if I could offer one word of advice that I actually learned in this theater as an organic player, I learned about enunciation, and that happens a lot. When I'm no stranger to getting nervous on stage, and it's as easy as, like, if this relates back to one of our presentations today, just one deep breath, and just kind of grounding yourself before you even get up onto the stage, because you all have great information. You all did a fantastic job researching, and there was not one presentation today where I felt like your message wasn't valuable. It was all very valuable. So I hope that you're able to take away just the importance of enunciation, because we want to be able to, the information's great, and we want you to be able to deliver it, which you did. You all did fantastic today. Also, going off of what Carissa was saying, I think it would be a great idea to have a notes section for the panelists next year, like just a little section on the piece of paper where you can write your own thoughts, because there were things that I definitely wanted to share directly with some of these students today. So again, great work. You all have extremely bright futures ahead of you, and I wish you all the best in either whether you're going to college or wherever the next step of your life takes you.
Thanks. I'm Steve Chatham. I chair the city's Environmental Sustainability Committee, and I'm do an echo chamber here thing. You guys are all great. But I've got one general comment and then one very specific one. And I'll start with the specific one, which is for Anna. Anna is one of our 2 student members on our committee, and you now have an assignment. You bring that presentation to the meeting on Monday, and I think you'll find a very welcome audience who would be very interested in pursuing your ideas. So the more general one, though, is I think the talks that came across the most impactful were the ones that were the most personal. When you could relay something, whether it's a fire in your backyard or a dissolving straw or whatever it might happen to be, that you can relate to something personal, it allows people to connect more directly to the message you're trying to deliver. So for those of you that weren't able to do as much of that in your talk, I would encourage you to add an element of that the next time you have the opportunity to present your ideas. So.
Thank you. Mark Orgio, Laguna Beach City Council and current mayor. And, you know, this meant so much to me today to be here. And I'm just so proud of you all. And I've had the opportunity to speak to several student gatherings here at the high school. I've been invited up to participate in several of the meetings. And this is just was amazing, and I really look forward to sharing my experience here with others and bragging about it. And I'm also very encouraged that, you know, we have some potential city leaders out there. I'm always on the hunt, you know, for future city council members, so I hope you guys all consider that. Some of the, you know, all of the topics were really relevant today, and you know, part of me, I felt like we were at a city council meeting. You know, a lot of these topics were brought up, whether it be the artist, the AI, and some of the other, the environment, the fire, many of these topics. I tend to stay focused on city issues. When I get drawn into the national, it becomes a bit overwhelming, and I try to stay focused on city issues. But regardless, and the topic of the gratitude meant a lot for me. You know, as upset as we all get about topics in Laguna and some of the issues that we have in Laguna, you know, I constantly remind the residents of Laguna that we truly are some of the luckiest people on the planet to live in the community that we live in. And you guys are even a testament to that. You know, our schools are great. You know, the city, it's just a great city. And I thank you guys for stepping up, and I look forward to seeing you guys prosper and become future leaders. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Morton. I'm the Manager of Education at Laguna Art Museum. Again, I'm going to echo what everyone is saying. It was just amazing to see. And from my perspective on AI art, I think that's amazing to be talking about. But it's just so cool to see humans, students, creating everything that was shown today. And I think to really think about that question, like that's how we combat AI, technology, and everything, is continuing to create ourselves. So it's just really amazing to see the youth of today doing that and rebelling in a small way by continuing to value the art that we create and the talks that y'all are thinking of, and just continuing to move forward that way. So I'm just really excited to see that, and I look forward to watching what you all do in the future.
Hi everybody, I'm Sue Kemp. I also serve on the city council with Mayor Orgel in my second term. I don't know where you guys get so nervous you can't see anybody up here. Like you're talking, it's like you're talking to yourself. But I thought the content was great, the presentations were good, but what I was especially excited and interested to see is the passion that you all have for issues that affect our city. And for example, you know, we have the promenades under construction now, and you know, many young people are very supportive of walking environments, and it's good for the environment. It's just good for people's overall general health. We work very hard on fire safety. I've heard a couple of comments about, you know, making sure the EMTs are adequately paid, and then of course the firecracker debacle that we had in town, and the fact that young people realize that we all play a part in that. The comments about AI as an artist community that really resonated with me. Maybe we can talk about that at the council meeting, because, you know, if anybody can do art online, then what is art? And so that really does concern me as it's a major economic driver of our engine, our economic engine, and it's also a part of our heritage and our culture. I liked Mallory's presentation on affirmations because in a world of, misinformation, disinformation, social media, it can be really a drag on your psyche. And so you need to attach to something that you feel passionate about, and if you're passionate about something, you'll be good at it. And anyway, I appreciate everybody's presentations. I think you guys are great. You have a great future, and I think you should all run for city council as soon as you're eligible.
Hi everyone, I'm Claire Roselle. I'm with Sustain SoCal and the Sustain OC Foundation. A lot of you may be familiar with our Sustainable Campus Challenge. But I wanted to shout out some presentations that were specifically addressing avoiding obsolescence and innovation, because those are really big areas that I work in. And I was just really blown away by the fact that you guys are thinking on par with professionals, thinking about how to transition spaces to something new instead of building a new building or creating a new supply chain for a safe, sustainable product that avoids corporate greenwashing. Those were really inspiring for me. And I also wrote some notes about people to connect you with if you're interested. But I just want to echo the sentiments up here that those personal connections and the solutions that start with a grassroots movement at your school or contacting your council were really impactful for me to hear. So it's great to see all of you being change makers on campus. I know that's a big goal here at your school. So you're doing Laguna Beach High School proud. So thanks for letting me be here.
Hi, everyone. I cannot highlight one of you without highlighting all of you. I'm so, so proud of each of you. So listen up really fast because I'm going to go super fast. Okay, Zachary, such an interesting, important issue. So important. Eliana, powerful topic, very engaging and great information. Anna, great research, and I love your creative solution. Mallory, you make me smile, and I love your personal impact. Maddie, your heart and your passion shine through. Spencer, your past experiences have shaped you, and thank you so much for sharing about it. Zealand, I love the creative model that you're using about reducing homelessness and all of your research that you've done. Estella, lots of creative research and examples. Sam, if you cannot name one thing good about the opposition, you too have been brainwashed. What a powerful quote. That's going to stick with me. Keon, incredible storyteller and stage presence. Kaden, important issue, and thank you for bringing it to our attention. Zoe, incredible stage presence and research. I think I got all of you. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for having me.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kristen Sweeney. I'm here with the Laguna Canyon Foundation, and I just want to say that it is very hard to be up here. That you would come up and be able to speak so eloquently, so passionately, and care so much about your community, the environment, politics. People talk about kids these days, they're all locked into their screens and they don't care, but they do. And you're the ones that are going to make the differences with that kind of passion. And I'm just so impressed with everything that I heard today. Thank you.
This is the moment, oh my goodness. I would like to invite up Mr. Christopher Regan from the Laguna Beach County Water District. The Water District has been a wonderful partner for us over several years now and has so generously, I'm just excited about it, funded the first ever Laguna Beach Water District Flow Scholarship. So after calculating all of the scores, we had a very tight race. This was certainly not a landslide at all. There were wonderful talks with very high remarks and high scores. We would like to award the $1,500 scholarship to the senior with the top flow talk. Do I just say it? Oh yeah, I think so. To Miss Zoe Tran. You cannot catch this at the bank, but we thought it would be more impressive. Congratulations. Can you get one, Mr. Shen? Which, by the way, I just want to take a moment to thank Mr. Shen for doing all our video and photography, Gavin and Sergio and Des and Peter and Dean for doing such a wonderful job with the stage and lighting. And thank you to all these panelists for your wonderful remarks and expertise. We really appreciate your time. Congratulations to all of you seniors. You will have the seals on your diplomas and the medallions around your neck. You should be very proud for actually taking action and using your writing for change. We so appreciate you sharing your passions with us. You did a wonderful job today. Thank you all for joining us and have a wonderful rest of your day.